You're doing it right now. Somewhere in your life, there's someone draining you, and you're calling it love. You're calling it duty. You're telling yourself you're being a good person. But there's a sickness spreading through your home, through your bank account, through the hours of your life you'll never get back. And the worst part? You invited it in. The Martins invited it in too. A good family. The kind who believe in second chances, in family bonds, in doing the right thing. They opened their door to Alex, a cousin who'd fallen on hard times. It seemed like simple kindness. It seemed temporary. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that they'd just signed a contract, written in their own blood. 3 months later, Mrs. Martin sat in her car in the driveway, unable to go inside her own home. She'd started doing that, just sitting there, breathing, delaying. Her husband had stopped sleeping through the night. Their savings account looked like a crime scene. And Alex? Alex was inside, comfortable, waiting for dinner. Something had gone catastrophically wrong. But when? You already know the answer. You've seen this before. Maybe not in their house. In yours. When compassion becomes complicity. Here's what nobody tells you about helping people. Sometimes, your hand reaching down to pull someone up becomes the rope they use to pull you under. The Martins learned this in a way that nearly destroyed them. But their story isn't unique. It's a pattern. And if you've ever felt that particular exhaustion, the kind that comes from giving everything and watching it disappear into someone else's void, you already know this pattern too. You've felt it. That moment when you realize the temporary situation has become permanent. When the gratitude you expected has curdled into something else. When you notice you're working harder on someone's life than they are. There's a reason for that. And it's not what you think. See, the Martins thought Alex's problem was circumstance, bad luck, a rough patch. They saw the late-night breakdowns, heard the stories about the toxic boss, the unreasonable ex, the string of unfortunate events. They did what good people do. They offered solutions, resume help, loan money, stability, a chance to rebuild. Alex took everything. The pattern should have been obvious, but patterns are invisible when you're inside them. Every crisis looked different on the surface. The car payment, the investment opportunity that disappeared, the job that somehow evaporated after 3 weeks. Different stories. Same result. The Martins were building a house in a hurricane. Except, and this is the part that breaks you when you finally see it, Alex was the hurricane. The storm that follows. Certain people. You know someone like this. The person for whom disaster is a lifestyle. Nothing ever works out, and it's never their fault. Watch what happens when you try to help them. Really watch. The job you help them get? Gone within weeks. The money you lend vanished into something that made sense at the time. The advice you carefully craft, ignored. Then comes the next emergency, the next plea, the next opportunity for you to prove you care. You start to notice something disturbing. The crises accelerate. They don't decrease with your help. They multiply. Your assistance doesn't solve anything. It becomes fuel. Each time you intervene, the disasters get bigger. The needs get more urgent. The stories get more elaborate. The Martins watched this unfold in slow motion. The first month, Alex needed help with a resume. The second month, it was a car repair. By month 3, it was bail money for a misunderstanding that somehow involved the police. Each crisis bigger than the last. Each one explained away with a story that almost made sense. But here's what was really happening. The Martins weren't helping Alex grow. They were helping Alex avoid reality. And Alex was getting comfortable in that avoidance. Too comfortable. If you're keeping score of how many times you've helped someone, you've already lost. They stopped counting months ago. The person who operates like this, they genuinely believe they're a passenger in a car they're actively driving into a ditch. When you step in to save them, you don't become their rescuer. You become their excuse. You shield them from consequences, and consequences are life's only real teacher. But there was something else happening, something quieter, something the Martins almost didn't notice until it was too late. The shift. It started with small comments, Alex mentioning the steaks the Martins were having for dinner. Can't remember the last time I had a good steak. A statement. Just an observation, really. Except it wasn't. The thank yous that had come so easily at first began to thin out. The room the Martins had given up, their home office, converted into a bedroom, started getting criticized. Too cold, too small. The Wi-Fi didn't reach well enough. These weren't complaints exactly. They were something else. Disappointments, unmet standards. Mrs. Martin felt it first. That strange guilt. The feeling that no matter what they provided, it somehow wasn't enough, wasn't right. She'd catch herself apologizing for things she'd never apologize for normally. The dinner being simple, the towels being old, things that shouldn't require apology. Then came the requests. A new phone. The old one was unreliable for job searching. Clothes for interviews. Each request came wrapped in logic, in need, in a perfectly reasonable explanation. The Martins said yes. What else could they do? But something was eating at Mr. Martin, a realization he couldn't quite articulate. Alex's needs kept expanding to perfectly match whatever the Martins could provide. Like water finding the edges of a container. The Martins would give an inch, and somehow, imperceptibly, they'd be expected to give a mile. Stop right here. Think about the last time someone asked you for help. Now think about what they asked for next, and next. See the pattern? He tested it. Small, gentle. When Alex asked about a new laptop, Mr. Martin said for the first time, "I'm sorry, we just can't afford that right now." The temperature in the house dropped 20 degrees. The mask slips. Alex didn't yell. That would have been easier to identify. Instead, there was silence. A cold, wounded silence. Followed by subtle punishments. Distance. Sighs. The energy in the house shifted from tense to toxic. Later, Mr. Martin overheard Alex on the phone with a friend. "Yeah, I'm staying with family, but I don't know. I thought they really cared, you know. But I guess there's limits to everything." That's when he understood. The gratitude had never been real. It had been a performance, a transaction. The Martins weren't family providing help. They were a resource being mined. And the moment the mine showed signs of running dry, they became the enemy. This is the shift that most people miss until it's too late. The people you give the most too often become the ones who resent you most. Your generosity doesn't inspire loyalty. It breeds contempt. Because your strength, your stability, your ability to give, it's a constant mirror reflecting back their weakness. And they hate that mirror. They'll never tell you this. Instead, they'll devalue what you give, make it smaller in their minds. Tell others it wasn't that much, or that you gave it the wrong way. This is how they maintain their self-image. This is how they avoid the crushing weight of gratitude. Years of saying yes get erased by a single no. Every sacrifice you made gets rewritten as not enough the moment you establish a limit. This is what psychologists recognize as pathological entitlement. The person doesn't see your help as a gift, they see it as their due, as cosmic compensation for how unfair life has been to them. And because they believe they're owed, they feel no need for gratitude. The Martins were learning a brutal lesson. You can't fill a bottomless pit. You can't satisfy someone whose real need isn't help. It's absolution from ever having to help themselves. The person you're thinking of right now, they're thinking of you too. But not the way you hope. But they didn't understand yet. They thought if they just explained better, set clearer expectations, found the right approach, they were still operating under the assumption that Alex wanted to get better. The identity. What if getting better is the last thing someone wants? What if their entire sense of self is built on the foundation of their struggle? The Martins started seeing it everywhere once they knew what to look for. They'd suggest job counseling. Alex had too much social anxiety. They found a therapist. Alex didn't connect with them. They tried to help with budgeting. Alex broke down, calling it overwhelming, accusing them of not understanding the depth of the trauma. Every solution was met with a yes, but. Every ladder they offered was examined for reasons it couldn't be climbed. This wasn't resistance. This was protection. Protection of something Alex valued more than freedom. Think about what happens when you're identified as the one going through a hard time. People give you attention, sympathy, resources, allowances for behavior that wouldn't otherwise be tolerated. There's a perverse comfort in it, a certainty. When you're the victim, you're never the villain. You're never responsible. The world owes you something. To heal is to lose all of that. To get better is to give up your excuse, your leverage, your reason for why everyone else should sacrifice for you. The Martins were offering Alex freedom, but freedom came with a price Alex refused to pay: accountability. So Alex stayed broken, professionally broken. The suffering wasn't a condition to escape, it was a career to protect. And every time the Martins tried to help Alex heal, they weren't fighting Alex's circumstances. They were fighting Alex's choice. This is the professional victim. The person who hasn't just gone through hardship, they've made hardship their entire identity. Their suffering isn't an event. It's a currency, a weapon. They use it to manipulate, control, and extract resources from everyone around them. If this is sounding familiar, don't look away now. This is where most people close the tab. Right before they see their own reflection. The weapon. Here's where it gets vicious, because the Martins kept trying. They kept pushing for Alex to get help, to take real steps, to change. And the more they pushed, the more they became the problem. Alex started using their help as evidence of obligation. After everything I've been through, this is how you treat me? The tears became more frequent, the breakdowns more dramatic. Alex was fighting for survival, not survival in the world, but survival of the role. 6 months in, the Martins were hollowed out. No savings, no peace. Their marriage strained to the breaking point. They'd wake up at 3 a.m. to the sound of Alex pacing, talking loudly on the phone, filling the house with chaos. They'd come home to new emergencies that needed immediate attention. They sat Alex down. Gentle, careful. Things have to change. You need to take real steps toward independence. We can't keep living like this. Alex's response was immediate and devastating. "I thought you were family. I guess I was wrong. I guess I'm just a burden to you." Then came the tears. The phone calls to relatives. The social media posts carefully crafted to paint a picture. The Martins, once heroes, were now villains who'd thrown their struggling cousin out in the cold. The Martins became the bad guys in a story they didn't even recognize. People who'd only heard Alex's version started treating them differently. Cooler. Judgmental. They'd given everything, and their reward was to be cast as cruel. This is the final move, the weapon that people like Alex wield with devastating precision. Your boundary becomes their betrayal story. Your exhaustion becomes evidence of your heartlessness. They take the narrative of their own dysfunction and rewrite it as a story of your abandonment. And it works, because society loves the underdog. Society loves the victim. Nobody asks what happened before the boundary. They only see the person crying. You're afraid of this, aren't you? Being cast as the villain. That fear is the chain they use to keep you trapped. For the others. While the Martins were drowning in Alex's chaos, they didn't notice the other ways they were being destroyed. Their friend Brenda, always so supportive, always so complimentary. That's so brave of you, taking Alex in. It's risky, though. I knew someone who tried that and it ruined them. But I'm sure you'll be fine. The words felt wrong, supportive and poisonous at once. When Mr. Martin got a promotion, Brenda was the first to congratulate him, and the first to mention how stressful that level of responsibility could be. I've seen people burn out at that position, but you're strong. The praise always came with a barb hidden inside. The support always came with doubt. Every success the Martins had came with Brenda's concern attached to it. Every decision they made was met with stories of people who'd made similar decisions and failed. It took them months to realize Brenda wasn't cheering for them. She was waiting for them to fail. Her smile was a mask. Her friendship was surveillance. She was tracking their wins so she could measure her own worth against them. And every time they succeeded, she felt like she'd lost. This is the smiling saboteur. The person who acts like your biggest supporter while secretly hoping you stumble. They operate from a place of deep envy. Your success feels like their failure. So they engage in subtle sabotage. Helpful advice designed to make you doubt yourself. Backhanded compliments. Strategic forgetfulness about important information. Whispers to others framed as concern. They don't want your help. They want your failure. Because your failure is the only thing that makes them feel better about their own stagnation. Then there was the uncle, the one who'd asked to borrow money for his sure-thing business idea. Mr. Martin had carefully explained why the numbers didn't work, why the market analysis was flawed, why the plan would fail. The uncle nodded, agreed, seemed to understand. He took the money anyway and lost every cent. When it failed, he didn't take responsibility. He blamed market conditions, bad timing, his partner's incompetence, everything except his own judgment. The Martins watched him start planning the next doomed venture. They offered more advice. He listened politely and ignored completely. His mind was already made up. Their expertise was an insult to his ego. This is the arrogant fool, the unteachable one. So convinced they're right that trying to help them is like reasoning with a brick wall. They're not defined by a lack of intelligence. They're defined by an excess of pride. Every failure gets rationalized. Every piece of advice feels like a personal attack. Eventually, The uncle stopped talking to Mr. Martin entirely, because Mr. Martin's correct predictions were an unbearable mirror of his own incompetence. Your competence becomes his enemy. The resentment of being right is sometimes stronger than the gratitude for trying to help. Count them. How many of these people are in your life right now? Don't lie to yourself. You know exactly who they are. The breaking point. It was a small thing that finally broke them. Mrs. Martin noticed her credit card statement. Charges she didn't recognize. Online purchases. Gaming subscriptions. Food delivery to addresses she'd never heard of. It took her a moment to put it together. She confronted Alex. Tears. Immediate confession. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. I'm so sorry. It'll never happen again, please. I'm so sorry. The Martins forgave. What else could they do? Alex was family. Everyone deserves a second chance. The apology seemed genuine. The remorse seemed real. They wanted to believe in redemption. 3 weeks later, jewelry went missing. Then cash from a wallet. Then Mrs. Martin's laptop disappeared. Sold, they later discovered, to a pawn shop 3 towns over. Each time the same script. Tears, confession, promises. I have a problem. I need help. This is the last time. And each time the Martins forgave. Because they believed in change. They believed people could grow. They believed their love could be the thing that finally broke the pattern. But the apologies were part of the pattern. The tears were part of the cycle. The promises were just tools to reset the game so it could be played again. Forgiveness wasn't teaching mercy. It was teaching that consequences didn't exist. Each time the Martins forgave, they were training Alex that stealing had no real price. This is the scorpion, the repeat offender. The one who betrays you, apologizes, and then betrays you again in a soul-crushing loop. They couldn't help it. It's their nature. And you keep giving them rides across the river, hoping this time will be different. Character is a pattern. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. True change is shown over time, through consistent action, not through desperate promises made while crying. But you keep wanting to believe. You keep wanting to be the one whose love was powerful enough to change someone's nature. You're not changing them. You're training yourself to accept less, to expect betrayal, to live in a state of permanent anxiety, waiting for the next theft, the next lie, the next violation. What you're not seeing. The question isn't whether you've met these people. You have. The architect of chaos, spinning disasters out of terrible judgment, the bottomless pit, consuming everything with no gratitude, the professional victim, weaponizing suffering, the smiling saboteur, poisoning your wins with envy, the arrogant fool, unteachable and proud, the scorpion, betraying you in endless loops. The question is, are you still carrying them? Right now, there's someone in your life who fits one of these patterns, maybe all of them. You know who they are. You've known for a while. You've just been telling yourself a different story about it. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself they're really trying this time. You tell yourself that your love, your patience, your resources will be the thing that finally changes them. But here's what you're not seeing. You're not helping them. You're participating in their destruction. Every time you bail them out, you're preventing them from hitting the ground, and the ground is the only place solid enough to push off from. You're shielding them from consequences, and consequences are life's only real teacher. And worse, You're destroying yourself in the process. Your savings, your peace, your relationships, your sense of reality. You're sacrificing your life on the altar of their refusal to grow. Most people reading this won't do anything with the information. They'll recognize the pattern, feel the truth of it, and then go right back to being consumed. Because setting a boundary feels cruel, feels selfish, feels like proof that you're not a good person. That feeling, that guilt, that's how they keep you. That's the collar they've trained you to wear. The decision. The Martins eventually made a choice. Not a dramatic one, not loud, just firm. They told Alex the money was done, the crisis management was done, the 24-hour emotional support hotline was closed. They helped Alex find resources, real resources, professional resources, and then they stepped back. Alex raged, screamed about betrayal, about family, about everything they'd promised. Then cried, trying to find the old leverage. Then threatened. Vague implications about what people would think, what people would hear. Then went silent, the coldest punishment of all. The relatives who believed Alex's story stopped talking to the Martins. There was gossip, judgment, social cost. Family gatherings became minefields. Their reputation in certain circles was destroyed. People who'd never sacrificed a thing for Alex looked at the Martins like they were monsters. But slowly, quietly, the Martins' home became theirs again. The tension dissolved like a fog lifting. They could breathe. They slept through the night. Their bank account stopped hemorrhaging. Their marriage, which had been on the edge of collapse, started to repair. They'd lost relationships, lost their reputation in some circles, lost the image of themselves as infinitely compassionate people. But they'd saved themselves. And Alex? Alex found another family member to take them in within 2 weeks. The entire cycle started again with new players, because the pattern always continues until the person chooses to break it themselves. And some people never choose. You think this story is about them, the destroyers, the chaos architects and bottomless pits and professional victims. You think if you can just identify them, avoid them, set boundaries with them, you'll be safe. But this story was never about them. It was about you, about the part of you that needs to be needed, the part that finds identity in being the savior, the part that would rather be destroyed than face the possibility that you can't save everyone. You can't save someone who's committed to staying broken. You can't fill a pit with no bottom. You can't teach someone who believes they already know everything. You can't trust someone whose nature is to betray. You can't win a war against someone who's fighting to stay sick. But you keep trying. Not because it's working. Because stopping would mean admitting you've been wrong. That the years you invested were wasted. That the sacrifices you made were for nothing. That you can't be the hero of this story. So you stay. You keep giving. You keep depleting yourself. You call it compassion, but that's not what it is. It's cowardice. It's ego. It's the inability to face the truth that some people don't want to be saved. They want to take you down with them. Real love sometimes looks like walking away. Real strength sometimes looks like saying no. Real wisdom is knowing that your life is not a resource to be mined by people who refuse to dig for themselves. The Martins saved themselves, but they lost years first. Years they'll never get back. Years of their marriage, their peace, their resources, their sanity. All poured into a void that was never going to be filled. How many years are you willing to lose? Because here's what nobody's telling you. every day you stay is a day you're choosing them over yourself. Every boundary you fail to set is a vote against your own life. Every time you light yourself on fire to keep them warm, you're teaching them that your pain doesn't matter. They already believe that. The question is, do you? You know who they are. You've known the whole time. You know what they're costing you. You know what you need to do. You've known for months, maybe years. The only question left is whether you value your own life enough to fight for it. Whether you love yourself enough to stop being destroyed. Whether you're brave enough to face the guilt, the accusations, the social cost of finally saying no. Some people can't be saved. Some people don't want to be saved. Some people will take everything you have and still blame you for not giving more. You can keep trying to save them, or you can save yourself. You can't do both. The Martins chose themselves. Eventually, after years of destruction, after nearly losing everything, how much are you willing to lose before you make the same choice?